Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? I'm Dan Geller from the Climate Learning Network. I'm also from Southern Regional Extension Forestry. I'm also from the University of Georgia College of Engineering. I wear many hats. I do a lot of extension. I'm completely grant funded, so that's why I have so many hats. I go where the money is. I'm going to talk a little bit about where I'm from and where we're going with this project, the Climate Learning Network. This started out with Southern Regional Extension Forestry, and I noticed on the map for the Northeast Climate Hub, we go right up to your border and then stop, but we do work across borders. And the point of this is that we are a regional extension group, so we actually work across state borders, connecting extension groups all around the South and Southeast, which is why this project sort of arose. One question I had, how many extension agents do we have in this room? Okay, we do have a good bit. I'm really talking to you when I talk about this because this is aimed at you. Also, there are CEUs for this meeting, so if you want to get those, make sure that you sign up for them. I noticed that not many people had signed up, which seems strange to me. Might as well get them. They're free, so take them. So anyway, that's where this started. What we do at Southern Regional Extension Forestry is we sort of provide extension forestry information across state borders. But around 2008, a lot of the states in the Southeast lost their extension forestry agents because of the economy. They were sort of the first to go. So we sort of came in and filled that gap and provided extension support across the borders, specifically on forestry. But one of the things that we did work on was climate change. And we have a great graphic design team that works with a lot of the stuff that we do. We do social media photography. We help different states get their word out using our platforms, which we were also able to translate to the Climate Learning Network, as we'll find as we talk. One of the big things we did is we took a look at the climate attitudes of Southern foresters. And to our surprise, we actually found out that Southern foresters sort of follow that national trend in their beliefs about climate change, which was great. We were expecting a little bit different turnout. We actually did see that they were very similar to those across the country. And again, these numbers pretty much match what we see all across the board here nationally. So with that said, we started working with e-extension. And for those of you who are not familiar with e-extension, e-extension is sort of the online presence of extension. It's been around quite a while. And in the past, all land-grant universities would contribute to this every year financially. And there was also baseline funding from the feds. And they would provide information that you couldn't necessarily get through your state. Again, when we lost agents due to cutbacks, they were there to sort of fill in that gap. And the main unit of communicating with the extension agents was this community of practice. The one that you may be most familiar with is this Climate Forests and Woodlands Community of Practice, which was really the basis of the climate work that was going on in the extension before the advent of the Climate Learning Network. So in about 2015, e-extension sort of rebranded itself. They decided to be more interactive, start using new technologies. Some of the technologies they had been using had been outmoded, so they were replacing that. And they really started focusing on innovation. That was the big buzzword for e-extension around that time. And with that, they brought in a new CEO, which was Christine Geith from Michigan State University, who was not from extension. She had worked with master gardeners, but her real focus was on the scholarship of innovation. So what she was bringing in was training of extension professionals using new technologies, and her real focus was issues, innovations, and impact. And we also went to a voluntary model where if you were a land-grant university, you no longer had to contribute by law, I guess we would say, but you actually didn't, you had the choice whether you wanted to be a part. So what we had to do at this point is make e-extension a lot more valuable to those member institutions, so they felt like it was worth contributing to the program. So in 2015, they picked 2 issues to focus on, and one of those was climate literacy. We had the Innovation Core, the I3 issue core, which had 200 extension professionals that were focused on both climate literacy and/or food systems. And they were hoping to expand that to about 2,000. And we're still working on getting those numbers, but that's about where we are with that. And again, we're looking at impact. We're looking at issues and innovation, but really we're trying to measure impact with all these different programs that we started, especially in this climate literacy area. So going to another component of this, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with these coordinated agricultural projects. This was a great source of information that was out there that we saw an opportunity to connect extension with. Another part of the Climate Learning Network was using the outputs of these CAPs to actually provide training for extension agents. Okay, now we get to kind of a fun slide. So as I said at the Southern Regional Extension Forestry Office, we have a lot of graphic designers, and we actually had a contest among the extension associates to make the ugliest slide that we could make. This is mine, and you can vote at the end. I actually didn't win. You won't believe it. At the end of this, somebody else beat me on this. But we're going to build the network, and we're going to talk about who's in it. And I laid this out. I'm an engineer, not a graphic designer. Keep that in mind. So again, we started out with Southern Regional Extension Forestry, where this was first started. So that includes the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences at the University of Georgia, the College of Engineering at the University of Georgia, and the Warnell School of Forestry. So the funding came from the Office of the Chief Economist, and the goal of this project actually is to take some of the outputs from those CAPs, working with the climate hubs, and connect with Extension. So we're not here to replace anything that the hubs are doing in terms of Extension, but we're here to complement that, give them another avenue for getting their word out. And again, we're used to working over state lines, so as a national project, this actually made sense for us to step in. And then E-Extension comes in, so the money is actually coming from the Office of the Chief Economist, flowing through Extension, and then coming down to the Climate Learning Network. The hubs are providing inputs into the Climate Learning Network along with all of our CAPs. There they are. And then we're bringing that to Cooperative Extension. Now, of course, all of these CAPs had Extension involved with them and did a great job getting their information out to Extension. And then that would go with delivery to foresters and farmers, and I hope you really appreciate that font that I used there. That was my, I was going to use Comic Sans, but I thought I'd get a little more creative here. And then the hubs, of course, connect directly with farmers and foresters as well. The farmers and foresters can tell the Extension agents what's going on, feeding back there. And then what we were involved in is translating these inputs from the CAPs, from the hubs, and getting that out to Cooperative Extension. And really, that's where we fit in. We're trying to translate some of the information you have to a national extension office, or audience, sorry. And then Cooperative Extension, of course, feeds back to us, and we hope that we get some good feedback from them. So this is my ugly slide, and again, I should have put the one that won up because it really blew me away, but that's about as ugly as I get. So this is our website. This is when we first launched about 2 years ago. And this is what we focused on, really, is e-learning modules. That was one of our big focuses. And then providing resources and a connection to peers for both extension agents and, of course, for farmers and foresters if they wanted to use it. One of the things that we did recently is we have assimilated that Climate, Forest, and Woodlands COP. The funding for that project had ran out, so we sort of took over that. So now they're a part of our purview as well. So that COP is now part of the Climate Learning Network. So if you're already a member of that COP, you're also a member of the Climate Learning Network. We built a website for them that has similar resources focused on forestry. So the products that we work on are e-learning modules, webinars. We do a lot of needs assessments. We have a monthly newsletter, and we do climate literacy training, which is really what I'm here to talk about, is that climate literacy training. And we do have this discussion that we're piloting in the Northeast. And this is at climatelearning.net/discuss. And what Aaron and I thought we would do is take different sectors and give extension agents, foresters, farmers, a chance to actually connect together using Google Groups, specifically on these different topics that you see here. So aquaculture, crops, forestry, things like that. So if you're interested in getting involved in that, it's free. Come and sign up. You can also sign up for the Climate Learning Network while you do that. So when we were developing climate literacy for extension agents, we used this new system called the DCOMP system, which used consensus-guided competency identification using a group of experts to do this. So we weren't really doing this out of the office of the Southern Forester. We were actually using a group of experts. Some of you are actually in the audience here. So we had a 2-day virtual development session where we actually came up with the curriculum for this literacy program. And I don't know if you can see this very well. These are all the different competencies that we came up with and how we were going to deliver them. So we had online curation for this. We actually used curriculum design using some education professionals. We are trying to do customized training for each region. So this is where I could use your help. And then we also have competency-based learning management system using Moodle within E-Extension. So that's the basis for this entire thing. Our first unit of teaching is webinars. We really love webinars. Do all of you know about climatewebinars.net? Raise your hand. I'm sure some of you have been on this. Great. So this is a great resource. We have all the Climate Learning Network webinars up here, plus a bunch of other webinars specifically about climate change There's hundreds up there right now, and if you want to deliver a webinar and you need a platform to do it, we can also provide that. So again, through climatelearning.net, we can set you up with that. We actually track green savings as opposed to having a physical meeting, although we're loving this meeting. We actually can tell you how much carbon and fuel you've saved. From the webinars, we developed a process called WebEd, which allowed us to take the webinars and actually turn them into interactive online e-learning modules. So with that, we started taking some of our principal webinars that we did at the beginning and converting them into e-learning modules, which are now available on the website. We have 8 of them right now. And so this is sort of the basis for our literacy training. And then right now, we've taken this and put it on e-extension. So of the extension agents that are in the room, how many of you know that you're a member of e-extension? Okay, so not all organizations are. So if you're not a member of e-extension, you can go to our website and get the same material, but if you're a member, you can actually go get certified as climate literate right now. So I've opened this up yesterday just for this group. So anybody that wants to take this training can, and I really hope that you do, because we need feedback to let us know how it works, to make sure everything's working technically, but also to see if it's actually providing you with adequate information. One thing that's interesting about this is if you're really into climate change and you already know what's going on, you can completely test out of this. There's a pretty difficult test that you can take at the beginning. If you get a 90% or better at that, you actually get the climate literacy certificate right off the bat, because I know a lot of you know a lot more than me about climate change. So again, this is at eextension.org right now. If you go to campus.eextension.org and search for climate literacy, you can actually take this training. One thing that's very specific about this is we wanted to do regional training for each of the regions for the hubs. We didn't get that out of everyone, so I've sort of made that a self-study. And this meeting right here will count for the Northeast regional training. So if you're interested in doing this, you can actually input the agenda or just write me and say that you actually attended this meeting. And that actually takes out one of these 9 requirements that you'll have for the actual climate literacy training. So again, all you extension agents, if you're really interested in this, want to get certified through extension, please do this and please provide feedback. There's a mechanism for doing that within the classroom. And I appreciate anyone who does that. So we've opened it up just for this group, so hopefully we can get some traction there. And so that's really all I have. As Aaron said, we had a pretty short discussion this morning. But these are our contacts, and again, that's campus.eextension.org. Search for climate literacy, and that'll be the first thing that comes up. So thank you all very much, and I hope to talk to you later this afternoon.
Hi, Jen Edinger, Maryland Seagrant Extension. Do you have plans to expand the modules to include the community development, the coastal communities, the people side of climate change, in addition to the crops and forestry pieces?
So at this point, we don't. Our funding ends in September, and we're kind of operating on an extension of a grant, so we have very little funding left. We're constantly looking for new funding for this project, and that's a really good idea for something that we could expand out to, so I'll make note of that. Thank you.
I was wondering how you see the interplay between web technologies and face-to-face meetings going into the future for the extension.
Yeah, we've had great success with this. I mean, a lot of what we do, because we work over state borders, has been virtual. It's, you know, for us, it's been a really great way to access all the states that are in our purview, and then, of course, now that we've expanded nationally. For example, one thing that we did is we worked with the Reach Cap, the wheat cap out in the Pacific Northwest, and we did a weekly series of webinars with them for 6 weeks every week. And really, you kind of get to know the people in that room. You know, they're feeding back and asking questions just as we are here. And there were certain people that sort of rose to the top every week. They'd be the first people to ask questions. You kind of knew James was going to be the first person to chime in and ask a question. So I feel like there is a relationship that is made through these technologies. But like with people in this room, some of you I've never met, some of you I haven't seen in 3 or 4 years. I think this is absolutely necessary that we get together and see each other. With extension, relationships are made in person. I don't think there's any question about that. We can't maintain our extension relationships with the farmers and foresters I'm talking about virtually. I think as extension, we have to get out there and meet people. You really don't get that confidence built without meeting people in person. So I think these are a great complement to that in-person activity, but I don't think we're ever gonna lose that. I think it's way too important.
Hi, I'm Annie from Cornell. I used to be an extension agent, now I'm not, but Extension agents have so much going on. Well, I can say personally from Cornell that we have a lot going on, and there's a lot of certifications that are available and offered, but sometimes not entirely clear like what someone can then use it for in their career or their work with people. So do you have people who have done certification and how they've used it?
So you would be the first group. We literally just launched that this week. So I'll keep you posted on that. Thank you.
Dan, thank you for your presentation. And we are exploring as a part of graduate education at Penn State, possible certificate program with a 9 credit for people both in extension, graduate students interested in climate change work. What kind of resources with all of this that you presented? It's so information is already ready. How much you are receptive to, or if we can work with you together to develop an online course about climate change, especially to in the immediate future to attract colleges of agriculture, because we have earth and mineral sciences. They are all just totally different set of what we call expertise. But I just want to check with you again. This is still at the exploration stage, and since I'm also serve as the assistant dean for graduate education in our college, it is in our area, so that we could pursue this further. The minimum is 9 credits. If content area is from this group, we can package into an online course, and then the other 6 credits we can manage with some social sciences, some other aspects.
Right.
If I listen to all the presentations you folks made yesterday, we all can package into some kind of a content that is most appropriate for the graduate level. So just talks about it, and again, Erin and of course Allison is there, Marjorie, we all are in the group, we can work together. So I just thought as an exploration thing.
I think that's a great idea. One technology that we developed that I think might be really appropriate here is that WebEd technology. So we could have the experts, and this would be at a graduate level, so it'd be different than what we've done, I think. But we can have them deliver webinar. They don't even have to do it in person. They could do it at their computer, and then we can take that and rapidly adapt that to an online course module. That's one thing that was interesting about this project. When it started, we had a very short timeline to get 8 modules out. So we had to do 8 modules in about 6 months, which worked out pretty well, because what we were able to do, again, is develop this process from going from webinar to module within a matter of weeks. So instead of taking a couple months to develop a module, we can do it in about 2 weeks if we have the source material ready. So that might work really well for developing that course.
Dan Goski, liaison with the hub, and through that detailed experience, I discovered that there's lots of different professional groups out there. One of them is this American Society of Adaptation Professionals. Do they know about your certification program? Is it something that you think that they would have interest in, or not?
I mean, I think that makes sense. This is really, because it's through extension, you have to be in a member institution, so that sort of limits the audience that we can have. But all the resources are, again, there on climatelearning.net, so I think we could provide that to them very easily. So let's talk about that afterwards.